You're not making enough trades in Dynasty, and I've brought on Paull Patterson so we can break down real fantasy trades and give you the strategy to dominate your leagues right here on the Fast Draft channel. All right, Paull, thank you for joining me, resident Dynasty bro. We kind of got in this game together. You're over at Pure Potential. Are you still riding anything for fantasy points right now? Or are you just solo dolo?
Just riding solo right now, but otherwise just working on videos for the channel. I'm excited doing like a whole strategy series over the next few weeks. A lot of fun stuff coming up.
Well, we'll jump right into it with our first trade. We've got a Brian Thomas Jr. for McConkey and Ashton Jeanty, and this is rough. This is rough here. The side A, they're getting Brian Thomas Jr., the 209 and a 26 first. Side B, McConkey and the 101. That's why I just go ahead and put Ashton Jeanty. If there is one league where Ashton Jeanty didn't go 101, let me know. Just for the gigs. I've got to know if there's a league out there where Ashton Jeanty did not go 101.
My buddy's actually in a flea flicker league where Tet McMillan went 101 ahead of Ashton Jeanty. Yes, it did happen. Real. I saw the screenshot. And it wasn't one of those deals where, the same guy had pick one and pick two. So he just, played a little game. Genuinely just took Tet McMillan. I can't explain it. Obviously, believe Jeanty should be the undisputed 101 here.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that was just one QB. But for Superflex, even Cam Ward seems egregious at this point, that highly on there. That's pretty wild on there. I don't know what's more wild is like someone's still playing flea flicker or I was like, that app is still that's still the thing over there.
Some people swear by that platform, man. I don't really get it. I was in a league on that platform for a little while. Wasn't anything special, but yeah, some people have some brand loyalty, which I guess I can appreciate.
Well, let's break this trade down. I love Brian Thomas Jr. He's someone that I think he's like a top. I'm not looking at rankings right now, but he's probably top 5 in Dynasty for a couple of people in there. If not, let's say top 8 for the sake of variance here. But I think this is underrating McConkey, man. Because like for me in Dynasty, if I don't get BTJ, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna get Lad right after. Like they're literally back to back to me. So for me, you're gonna tier down or tier up one spot in a super flex draft, and you're going to give up Ashton Jeanty for a 26 first. That just, and like, maybe you're counting on quarterback there. Like maybe you're like, I'm going to get Arch Manning with that, but you can't even play that game anymore because some of these QBs stay. That could be Drew Allar, that could be Garrett Nussmeier, some of these other players. So I don't know. You're giving up 2 really good birds in the hand for a slightly better bird and a bunch of mystery boxes. Is there any way you're making this trade?
No, I mean, this to me is so clearly the Jeanty side. I think it's totally fine if you want to take Brian Thomas over Jeanty straight up in Dynasty. If you want to say I'm going for the longevity of wide receiver, I think that's fine. I have them in the same tier, like just Thomas versus Jeanty. And I've seen even that be ripped apart by some people who are very, running back hungry. Like, that's crazy. I can't believe you would ever take Thomas over Jeanty. But take that out of it. Like, McConkey is so much more valuable than a random future first and the 209. Like, you're talking about Arch Manning. We have no idea what this future first looks like. Like, that could be a playoff team. We don't know what caliber of pick that's going to be. So even if it's early, I'm still taking the McConkey side. Like you said, he's not that far behind Brian Thomas. I think I have Thomas as my wide receiver 6 and Lad as my wide receiver 10, but it's still not that significant of a gap. You're getting an incredibly productive player, like a guy you can plug in right away in Jeanty and get, feasibly elite production right away. Yeah, I don't really see the reasoning behind the Thomas side of this deal.
Yeah, and and you could argue that Lad McConkey has a better situation than Brian Thomas Jr. And when I mean an argument, I mean like a gentle argument, not like red-faced arguing on Twitter about it. But it's just that I love Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to talk about Trevor Lawrence here. Yeah, we got a Trevor Lawrence trade. I like Trevor Lawrence at cost, especially. I'm not saying that he sucks, but Justin Herbert is just a better, more proven quarterback, and they have a better coaching staff right now. And Lad McConkey also got a wide receiver too that could take off pressure on him. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I would argue that Lad McConkey can go over BTJ. Would I do that? No, probably not. But like if someone else had that ranking, I wouldn't think it's egregious because they're in the same bucket. We're not even going to talk about Ashton Jeanty in this, man. It's just crazy. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And to your point about the BTJ or Lad in the Ashton Jeanty bucket, to me, it's positional value, especially in Dynasty. Like, look at Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and how long they've been in the league and how dominant they are in comparison to whatever running backs, almost any other position minus maybe QB. I can't really think that far back on draft classes right here. But wide receivers just last a little bit longer, have a little bit higher upside if you've got those good ones. And that's the only reason why. It's not that, Jeanty sucks. Go get BTJ. It's just all about position. All right, we're going to go to the next trade. Newsflash, another Brian Thomas Jr. trade. I don't know why, but when I made this post on Twitter, everyone was just hot for BTJ and Odunze and Garrett Wilson. Those have to be like the three most traded players right now that I feel like one guy really likes Garrett Wilson or one guy really likes Brian Thomas Jr. and Odunze. So like it's just easy to move these guys right now. Side A, Brian Thomas Jr., 27 first. Side B, Odunze, the 104 and the 303.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with these wide receivers, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but the thing with these wide receivers is like, first of all, everybody always needs wide receivers because most people are playing in these PPR start three wide receiver leagues. There's you can never have enough wide receiver firepower. And these are all guys that are, highly thought of as prospects, but there's a lot of volatility as far as their immediate situations, or like in the case of Rome, difference in talent evals. So I definitely see these guys getting moved a lot. And in terms of this deal, I look at the 104 for me by ADP. That's Travis Hunter, who I have as my 102, but I feel like is usually there at the 4 spot. Maybe it's Ted McMillan, maybe it's Cam Ward if you're more of a quarterback guy. Either way, well, actually, I'm not going to say either way. I feel like to me, this deal does come down to who's available at that pick. Like, I could be talked into the Rome side of this trade if it's Travis Hunter there at 104. But I think most of the time I'm probably taking Brian Thomas because you're getting the best asset in the deal and you're getting that future first where even if it doesn't end up being, as high as the 104, it doesn't end up being a super early pick. That's an insulated asset. It's going to rise in value. Whereas you go to the Rome side, I know you're a bit of a Rome fan, or at least I think that's the case. I see just more risk there where I don't think there's true bust risk where I don't think he's a bad player, but I think we could very quickly this year learn that he's maybe not kind of a top tier wide receiver talent. And you're just left with a Jaylen Waddle or who's another one of those guys, DeVonta Smith type of wide receiver where it's like, Zay Flowers, we're like, this guy's talented, but it's like, what, they're not moving the needle for me. He's probably ends up being worth about a first. He's not putting difference-making production in your lineup. And then you're like, man, I really wish I had, Brian Thomas scoring 18, 19 points per game.
To actually shock here, when I first put this trade, I was so blatantly on the BTJ side, even for Odunze, just because it's the 27 first for me. Yeah. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here when I said can't really project what a 26 first is. The 27 class is a lot like this 25 class in terms of the talent in there. I don't know what that 27 pick is. I just know it's probably going to be a good player when you think about the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, probably good running backs in there. I've had so many people try to get cute with me where they're like, well, Jag doesn't know. Give me that 27 first. I'm like, get out of here. Scram. Just because I know what it is. But where you made me kind of think that this is even, and if anything, I'd want more context of the roster build. I know a lot of people disagree with this, and even to an extent I do. I don't like splitting my assets for someone like Brian Thomas Jr., someone like Lad McConkey, Ashton Jeanty. I did that in a league that we're in on Bestball because that roster was just so bad. And I'm going to give them a bit of the doubt that they have the same thing here. You have no quarterback, or maybe you're just so wide receiver broke where you can get Odunze and Travis Hunter to where you have, I think Odunze has upside. I do get where you're saying the risk of floor here, but you're getting 2 high upside players for the cost of one. It's just that 27 first. If that was a 26 first, I could definitively say this is an even trade. you know,
So
that's the flipper for me.
are you at a spot where you like, are you just comfortable taking a 26 first and just trading it away for a 27 first? Like, are you that
Yeah.
confident in the eval? Because I struggle with that just because I think, first of all, I feel like we get it wrong with these class evals sometimes, but also just regardless of what the class actually is, by the time next year comes, there's going to be so much hype just built up for these players because of the like immediate dopamine that you get from drafting a rookie, where like it almost doesn't matter, you know, what the quality of the class is. Maybe it affects things at the margins, but it's like it feels like next year you'll be able to trade, you know, the 108 in the class for a 27 first. Whereas right now, if you're making that deal, you could potentially be giving up, you know, a top 5 or top 4 pick. So I don't go that far of like, yes, I would value a 27 first over 26 first, but it's definitely, I agree with you that class looks stronger right now, which makes me more inclined to pick up picks 2 years out than I maybe would be in a normal scenario.
And what I'm doing, I know a lot of people like go get 27 first. Go out and get it. Like always try to get it first, guys. I'm not saying don't go get first, but it is easier to get deals done if I'm going after seconds because you got 2 years to turn those seconds into firsts, you know? So it's just much, or even in drafts, like this current class, the 2025 class, this was a great class to have seconds because you could trade back up into the first. If you want someone like Caleb Johnson or Matthew Gold or any of the tight ends, there's a lot of these players that maybe you like and you can go make a move for, or you just stay where you're at. And I've really enjoyed picking up Jack Best, Bashul Tootin, some of these other second round players. Yeah. And I think that the 27 class has that as well. But to answer your question, in a vacuum, I went 27 first and 26 over 26 first. But the point that you made that I like to say is every class we say, this sucks. Yeah. This class sucks. And there's always players that creep back up and at least make the first round or maybe the top 7 picks of that round worthwhile. Even back, I think, in the Zay Flowers class, like this class sucks. There was really good players to come out of that. I go back to Kenneth Walker class. Like Kenneth Walker came out of there and rose out of nowhere. It's just, think about Caleb Johnson. No one was even talking about him up until this year. And now if you're in Devy supplemental drafts, he was a 102, 103 in that. So I think you're right that you shouldn't be blatant and giving up 26 first.
Like even this year's class, in January, I was like, this class sucks. And then by the time May rolled around, I was like, actually, give me all of these picks. Like, I want every single one of these guys. I'm like, I can't get enough. I'm trading into the drafts. Like, my biggest I went through all of my leagues and because I'm a total Dynasty sicko, I have like 26, 27 leagues. And I'm going into these leagues and I'm like basically tallying up all the picks that I have. And I realized across all these leagues, I only had like 8 seconds because I had just dealt them like, I had a lot of competing teams last year. I needed a James Conner or a DeVonta Adams or whatever. So I was sending these seconds away. I'm like, I am so mad right now that I'm going to miss out on so many shares of Luther Burden and, you know, Matthew Golden and Bishal Tootin and all these guys that you're talking about, when a couple months ago, I was like, I don't even care about this class. So I think even as someone who's in the space doing content and like is fairly grounded in my evaluations, even I have like fallen victim to the constant rookie fever, that desire to get those picks. So I feel like I like to play the psychological aspect of my league mates and just know, like, even if people are trashing on these picks right now, they're going to totally change their tune by the time that class comes up. So that's where I'm like, give me the immediate pick because I bet I can turn it into the future pick plus more when the moment comes. But not to get too far off from the trade. I think we've come to kind of a consensus here that it's not crazy on either side. I'm leaning slightly towards the BTJ side because it's the better asset. Yep. And I forget, where did you land? Because you said you were kind of back and forth.
I think it's even, but I lean BTJ. Like you said, it's just, there's always a risk with splitting your assets. And this comes to a guy that does this sometimes. If you are desperate, sometimes you need to move major assets to go build a roster. Because especially like if I'm in a league with you, I'm like, well, I can rebuild. I'm like, can I really rebuild through the draft in 3 years? Not really, you know, it's not really going to happen. So sometimes you need to make these moves. So that's where I lean. And to move on to like, I guess some more veteran ones, I thought this was a fun trade to talk strategy a little bit with, because we have a Jauan Jennings and Tyreek Hill trade. I'm curious to where you are on Tyreek Hill and how you're treating this asset, because even in best ball, I'm having a hard time clicking the button.
Mhm.
Side A, Jauan Jennings, and the 207, Tyreek Hill. Side B is Tyreek Hill and the 309. I'm firmly on the Jauan Jennings 207 side, and do I dare say it's not close to me? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's not too close for me either. I agree with you on the Jennings side. So the way that I view Hill right now, I have him as like an early second round type of pick. He's pretty roster specific. Like I'm not just going to go out and get him for that price no matter what. Like I need to have kind of a clear, like, okay, this team needs a veteran that can score more points. Maybe I have enough extra value where I feel like I can take on the risk. But I think there's a lot of downside risk with him just because we saw his efficiency crater last year. And then he's getting up to that age where at any point a wide receiver can kind of pull the black marble out of the bag, as Adam Harstad used to say, and just kind of fall off completely. You have him recovering from this wrist surgery from last year, and then you have the general volatility of the Dolphins offense, where you have the Tua injury risk. You've got kind of a really bad offensive line there. I think genuinely think you have some risk of like Mike McDaniel getting fired in season if this team doesn't perform. I think there's a lot going on. And then you have Tyreek off the field stuff of just like, is he going to get in a fight with a police officer? What is he going to do? So I think there's a lot of risk with him. And yeah, there's still some glimmer of hope that like maybe you can recapture that high ceiling with him, that 18 points per game ceiling. But I don't view him as like a substantially better bet than DeVonta Adams, who I think is just much safer. So when I'm going out and looking for who's that veteran wide receiver that can maybe push me over the edge, I'd rather go out and get Adams, who was better than him last year, doesn't have the off the field stuff, has a much more, I think, stable offensive environment. So just on Hill specifically, early second type of guy. I'm not really banking on league winning production. I think median outcome for him is like, wide receiver 12, wide receiver 13 type numbers if he doesn't do something stupid or get hurt.
Yeah, I'm all in on the Rams in general. I'm just buying
Yeah, man.
best ball in Dynasty. It's like I love that you said that. Like, if you want to make a quote unquote win now move, don't go get Tyreek Hill, go get Davante Adams. Like to me, I think the Dolphins in general are a fade for me. I know I got by the time this releases, the episode that I put out before here, I have Devon Achane as like my biggest fade and sell of the summer, just because the Dolphins have shown that they don't want to continue to give him the volume that he had, and moreover, he was kind of the only option. Two, I don't even know if Mike McDaniel's it anymore. Tua has a lot of problems. What is Tyreek Hill? Like as a person,
exactly. There's a lot of risk.
So
Honestly,
questions.
the guy I kind of like the most, just because he's gotten so cheap, is Jaylen Waddle. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, in best ball, he's crazy cheap. Like he goes so far after
Wide
wide
receiver
receivers
3.
that I would say he's like the same archetype as a bunch of wide receivers going 3-4 rounds ahead of him. So I like his price. And then in Dynasty, it's like, you find the right manager on the right day, you can send like a 201 pick or something for him. And I think he's still really young. He's flashed that upside in the past. So I kind of like him as just like, even if everything implodes with the Dolphins, like he can kind of survive that, and be productive afterward. But yeah, as far as Hill, and then with this trade, it's just the picks make it not close, because I do have Hill a tier ahead of Jennings in my dynasty rankings. But that 207 pick gets pretty interesting, because like Baishal Tutin's a guy I'm really high on. He's almost always available there. Jack Besh, I like a lot. That like those guys that you're getting at the 207, I just view as such a substantially better bet than whoever you're getting at the 309, whether that's like a Dylan Sampson,
Woody Marks,
Devin Neal, like one of these late day 3 running backs that's like not in a clear productive situation. For me, it's usually Jarquez Hunter, going back to the investing in the Rams. Like that's the guy that I'm always clicking in the late third, but you're still talking about a day 3 back who's potentially the RB3 on his own team. It's just a very different bet. So you're getting Jennings, who I think it's hard to argue he has the same type of scoring upside as Tyreek Hill, but I do think I think he's in a good spot to produce. He's going to have a full-time role on this team. He scored like 14 points per game last year. They're running him back in basically that exact same role. We don't know how healthy Ayuk is going to be at any point. They got rid of Debo. So I think he's in a good spot. He's not old. He's going to be, I think, 28 this summer. So just kind of a safe, stable, low end wide receiver 2 type. and then you're getting that upside shot in a Bashal Tootin and a Jack Besh. I just think that's a much more appealing package to get.
Yeah. You nailed it there. Like you said, 309, you have a lot of risk. Another thing too, at 207, like like you said, Besh, Tootin, someone I'm getting there, both the tight ends. This has been my hot take of the year. I think in redraft, I think Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson should be ahead of Tyler Warren. If you're playing that game, I'm sorry, guys. As someone who's a big Richardson guy, I'm just all out on the Colts here. So like they go around there, you have a chance to get really good tight ends at that point. And like you said, like 309, yeah, those are fun and players that I want during that range. But to me, you get off of a risky high upside asset for, I think, a safer asset.
Yeah.
And then a higher upside player. Before we move on to the next trade, if you like content like this, hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to get on the fast draft best ball action, we have our Flex 4 tournament going on right now. We have our Origins tournament, which is just a rookie draft, but just best ball. And we have our full best ball tournament that's coming in the next couple of weeks. So let's just say that's a little teaser. You can use my code that's on the screen, code JAG. And again, if you want more Dynasty news, best ball, redraft, to talk about it all on this channel, hit the like and subscribe button. And I think I'm done paying the bills. All right, next trade here. We got some quarterbacks. It's basically Bo Nix for Trevor Lawrence and Jaylen Waddle. Side A has Joe Mixon and Bo Nix. Side B, Trevor Lawrence, Jaylen Waddle in the 26th second. We just talked about Jaylen Waddle. I am back in on Trevor Lawrence at cost. I don't think Doug Peterson, you're an Eagles fan, man. Doug Peterson gave you a Super Bowl. Cool. Just went to shit. Just went crazy. When he leaves, the Eagles get immediately better.
Yeah.
Immediately better. Then we go over and Urban Meyer, we have that weird mulligan year. And then what has Doug Peterson done to prove that he was the guy now? Now we get Liam Cohen, who has really done a lot of productive things and has done a lot for a prospect like Baker Mayfield, who was less than Trevor Lawrence. So you're getting off Joe Mixon, who is, his days are numbered. Let's move past that, for Jaylen Waddle, who's a fun mystery box, and a second on top of that. And all it's the cost of Bo Nix. Which side of this are you on?
I'm on the Lawrence side here pretty heavily. It's interesting. I've kind of had a little bit of I've come around on Bo Nix a bit. Like I would have considered myself kind of a Bo Nix hater earlier in the offseason. And then I was kind of doing some research for a video. Basically, I went into the video process with like, I'm putting Bo Nix as a sell. And I was like, he's going to be a sell. And I'm going to go through and find all the reasons why Bo Nix has to be a sell. And then I just didn't find them. So I was like, all right, well, he's not a sell anymore. I'm just going to leave him where he is. I've got him like 2 or 3 spots behind ADP in my rankings. But I view Trevor Lawrence a lot more favorably, I think, than the Dynasty market does. I have them in the same tier. I've got Nix as my QB 10 in Dynasty. I've got Lawrence as my QB 13. But I have Nix, Stroud, Love, Lawrence, Kyler, McCarthy, Ward, Purdy, all like pretty tightly grouped. I think they're all fairly similar bets in terms of like their seasonal expectations. What are their scoring upside cases? Like I don't view them all that differently. So when I'm looking at a deal like this, even if I slightly prefer Nix, I just think you're getting so much extra value in Jaylen Waddle, where like I view Mixon in the second as pretty much a wash. Waddle's like a late first type of value for me. To me, this is like you're getting a free late first. You're getting a free guy that you can play, in your wide receiver 3 spot, in your flex spot, that's going to carry value. And I'm not worried about the so-called downgrade between Nix and Lawrence, because I think we've already seen Lawrence put up a season that's not even that much worse than Nix's rookie year. Like he had an 18.7 point per game year. And I think that you add Hunter and you add Liam Cohen to this offense. Like I think that is a substantial upgrade in terms of the creativity of the play calling, the flexibility that you have now with these 2 legitimate receivers out there. You're not trotting out Evan Ingram to run, 2-yard drag routes to try to get you down the field. Like you have 2 legitimately dynamic playmakers. So I think there's a high ceiling for Lawrence. I think he's in a very safe situation now as a young quarterback with a long-term contract and potentially a competent coach for the first time in his career.
Yeah, man, you nailed it. And people are kind of underrating that Lawrence had a decent season before injury. Everyone's like, "Well, Lawrence sucked." I'm like, no, he played pretty well because they gave him a good receiver, and then he got injured, and then we saw Mac Jones go out and be pretty. Like, it's crazy to me that people are like, "Trevor Lawrence sucks." It's like, did I not watch Mac Jones look relevant for 4 weeks in a row in an inferior offense? That like it to me, the upside for Lawrence, it's so easy to see. People forget that he's pretty mobile.
Yeah.
If anything, I think he's maybe slightly less mobile than Bo Nix. I'm not even ready to say that. I'm not even prepared to say that. Clearly has a better arm. And like you said, the more we talk about Jaylen Waddle, like Jaylen Waddle kind of seems like free money right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I should go out and get him.
I mean, this dude, this was a guy we were talking about. Like he was going in like the late second round of startups a year and a half ago. He was, and he was putting up the type of per out numbers you'd want to see. Like 2.5 yards per out run. He was dominating targets per out run. It was just like, man, if Tyreek Hill ever gets out of the way, like get ready for Jaylen Waddle to take off. And now it has never been more over for Tyreek Hill, and nobody cares for Jaylen Waddle. It's like, yeah, Tyreek Hill might suck at football, but I definitely don't want the wide receiver 2 on this team. Like, I think we've gone too far with even like you said, the fading the Dolphin situation. Maybe it's a little bit volatile. I think we've gone too far on fading a young, very highly paid wide receiver that was thought of as like one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league prior to last year. And if you look at last year, everything fell off a cliff. It wasn't Waddle. Like Achan's efficiency went down, Hill's efficiency went down, Waddle's efficiency went down. Like everybody suffered. So I don't think it makes, except for Johnny Smith. He was like the cockroach that survived the nuclear explosion. Like he made the most of it. But like all of the super fast, super explosive guys in that offense, all of them suffered. So I think it's more reasonable to say like the line was non-viable. Tyler Huntley was non-viable, and everybody there is still good, or still. I don't think Jaylen Waddle forgot how to play football at age 25. Is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly, man. And you like you said, you've quickly made me come to Jesus on Jaylen Waddle because it's just like, yeah, maybe you should fade. And actually, I should just be honest. My highest exposure right now through 20 drafts of unnamed Bestball company that's is like is Jaylen right now because it's like I'm after the Jalen's in the Dolphins offense because I'm like Jaylen Wright is free money right now, and Jaylen Waddle comparatively is free money. So it's like the Dolphins are a team, fade everyone except the 2. Like go get the 2 on that team.
They're cheap. I mean, they're cheap relative to their upside. Yeah. And they can benefit from things going wrong. If Hill is washed, it helps Waddle. If Achan gets hurt or they reduce his workload, then it benefits Wright. Yeah.
Yeah. Like thinking about just for a lineup perspective, if you're in an average, we only start 2 wide receiver leagues, Jaylen Waddle's in your flex right now. Just think about that. And then like for me, I play in a lot of start wide receiver 3, same thing. If I could put Waddle as my wide receiver 3, cool. You could give me nothing. You could give me 20 points easily. And that's the type of player Waddle is. I'm okay with that as my wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 1 and 2, I kind of want you to get 14 points every week. It's just at the very least. So that was definitely a fun trade there. Next, we're going to go, and this is where I feel like we're going to disagree a little bit here.
Love it.
Because I love all of these players here. I just have a hard time. I don't know. I'll just say what it is. Nico Collins for Garrett Wilson and Sam LaPorta. Side A, Nico Collins. Side B, Wilson and Sam LaPorta. I will trade Nico Collins for that every time. I don't know. I would. It's like 10 out of 10 for me.
I think I would take Nico either way, but I do kind of want to know if this is a tight end premium league. Do you have any idea?
No context on there. In tight
no context. All right. So here's what. Then we'll caveat a little bit. So I'll say in a non-tight end premium league, I'm smashing the Nico side. Don't even care because frankly, I think I'm a little bit of like a Sam LaPorta hater, but I could not be less interested in rostering Sam LaPorta in a non-tight end premium league. Like I just do not care. Tight ends that aren't top 2 receiving options on their own team, they don't come through with high end seasons like ever. And I think we saw last year, like he definitely dealt with some injuries. That was part of the equation. But what we also saw was Jameson Williams emerging as a genuine wide receiver too. And I tend to think Jameson Williams is going to be the second highest target earner on that team, which really complicates things for LaPorta. He's still a good player. I think he's going to have a reasonable floor for whatever that's worth at tight end. I think he has contingent upside if either of those guys gets hurt. But in non-tight end premium, it's so hard for any of these guys to really matter, but especially when they don't really have the runway to put up high upside. In a tight end premium, I've got him valued kind of in that late first range. I've got Garrett Wilson as more of like a little more than a first. Still like some of the upside with him, but I have Nico up above 2 firsts. I have him as my wide receiver 8. I have him just behind Amon-Ra, just behind Brian Thomas. I'm very, very high on him as at his scoring ceiling. So I'm totally down to consolidate here, take the best player in the deal.
I'm going to start with the Sam LaPorta, and we're not going to talk about the other player yet. Where's Sam LaPorta ranked for you in Dynasty as far as tight ends go?
He's my tight end 4. So I have Loveland ahead of him, which I know is like a little hot takey.
I don't hate that though. I don't think like people are going to say that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take. So.
My thought is like, I mean, he's a stellar prospect. Like you cannot besmirch his prospect profile. The dude is crazy young, crazy productive when you look at anything other than, raw counting stats. The dude's target share, targets per run, whatever, like he carried the Michigan passing game on his back. So I don't really have any doubts about the talent. And what I see from him in Chicago is just a clearer opening to potentially be that second best target earner. Like I'm not burying Rome Odunze. I'm not saying it's over for him, but I think between DJ Moore being a guy that the coaching staff kind of hates, and like also was like
shit out of him
quitting on routes last year. Like I'm wondering, how long does he even last in Chicago, but also like how much of a priority really is he for them? And then with Odunze, not truly breaking out as a rookie, the door is open for Loveland to potentially be a top 2 guy in that offense alongside one of those other guys. And so you pair the fact that he's a rookie with that, that huge value upside, if he can just be competent, along with the potential for that maybe higher scoring ceiling, that just puts him ahead of LaPorta for me. But then I've got LaPorta at 4. I have him ahead of Warren, ahead of, Njoku, Kittle. I mean, not Njoku, Hawkinson, Kittle. So I'm not that far behind the market positionally. It's just where I value him against players at other positions. Yeah.
Interesting. Cause like my argument against Sam LaPorta is like, we ranked George Kittle highly for, in my opinion, being in the exact same situation. The argument that you could have against this is that Ben Johnson is no longer there. Like that is my biggest worry, is this Ben Johnson no longer being there. But I consider this offense to be like the 49ers. I don't mean schematically. I mean as far as how they distribute targets, meaning that they're just going to attack the defense where it's most vulnerable. So some games you're going to get a LaPorta game. Some games you're going to get a Jameson Williams game, whatever. So I'm okay doing that. Then I know you're a Garrett Wilson hater. How much hate is it? Like, okay. I just, what has he done individually that you think that he can't succeed now?
No. Okay. We need to set the record straight here. I love Garrett Wilson. I am a Justin Fields hater. Okay. I am not a Garrett Wilson hater. I love Garrett Wilson. I was singing his praises last year as a guy that I thought could potentially enter the CeeDee Lamb zone in Dynasty. The problem for me is that the Jets have done such an incredible job of creating the most hopeless situation conceivable. I know that DJ Moore, he had that good year with Garrett Wilson. The way that I see it is we're looking at it. So I don't believe in Fields personally, like as a passer, but what is undeniably true is that due to the nature of the way he plays quarterback, he takes a ton of pass attempts out of the offense because he scrambles and he gets sacked. Like those are the 2 things that he does constantly. And so I do not see a world where the Jets, who were 5th in pass attempts per game last year, by the way, can even sniff the top half in pass attempts. Like that's how I feel. I don't think there's any world where Justin Fields is above the league average in pass attempts per game. And that creates a serious problem, I think, for Garrett Wilson's production, because then you're asking for this mega per route efficiency. And he's never really been like a yak god. Justin Fields has never been like a catchable targets god. And so I really struggle to do the math and see like where is there a ceiling for Wilson to finish higher than like the wide receiver 10 if everything goes perfectly?
The one stat that kind of broke my brain hearing is that the Jets were top 5 in pass attempts. Those were the shittiest pass attempts.
Oh, they
I've
sucked. Those pass attempts sucked.
I was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not arguing with you. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
It was just more damning of how bad Aaron Rodgers was.
Yeah. Well, you know, he kept throwing it to Alan Lazard. So it was just like,
and I'm not as big as a Justin Fields hater because if anything, I think that Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields are two Ohio State guys who have had the same problem where I feel like there's a lot of talent there. They just had the most dog shit situations to get the most out of them.
Yeah.
Where like we saw with Justin Fields, him go 4-2 on the Steelers who have a significantly worse offense. Mm-hmm. And I know that is wild to say out loud. That's people like worse than the Jets. It is actually worse than the Jets. Garrett Wilson better than DK Metcalf. No one's going to argue that. No. I'm willing to already put Mason Taylor ahead of Pat Freiermuth, which is sad. I like Pat Freiermuth, but it's just not happening for him. Sorry guys. Wide receiver 2. It's a wash. Let's just say
it's a wash.
It's a wash there.
It might as well be us out there, but
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's a wash. Running back, I'm going to give the advantage to the Jets because I think Breece Hall's probably better than Caleb Johnson. I think that Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen are competent backups. On top of that, the offensive line's improved. With all that being said, the big thing that I have here is the passing game coordinator from the Lions coming in and Aaron Glenn. I'm not trying to get too coach speaky on here, but I haven't felt this hopeful since Bob Saleh. And I know that is a crazy thing to say. I think Bob Saleh was fine with the Jets. I think, and this is kind of me disprove my own point. Ownership kind of killed Bob Saleh. You could see the life run out of him when they're like, you have to have Aaron Rodgers and we're trading everything possible to get him in here and all of his goons, you know, like Alan Lazard and what's his name? Randall Cobb. He's so old. I couldn't remember his name, you know. I'm willing to make that bet. And I'm also willing to make a bet on Garrett Wilson, who has earned targets in the worst situation possible to where I don't think Justin Fields can be worse than Aaron Rodgers.
So I don't think he can be worse. I don't think that he will be worse on a per attempt basis. Again, for me, it's just that there's total volume. So like, just for example, right, not saying this is gospel or anything. I just wanted to see it. I pulled up Mike Clay's projections for the 2025 season. He's got the Jets with 494 total pass attempts. For what it's worth, he's got Tyrod playing 3 games with 90 attempts. So whatever that might be, 494 attempts. Just offhand, like I can tell you that's definitely bottom 10, you know, bottom 12 in the league on that. And then he's got Wilson with 128 targets. He's got double the targets of any other player on the team, 80 receptions, 1,015 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like that's exactly the type of season that I think he's going to have, where he's going to finish as like the wide receiver 20, wide receiver 22. He's going to be totally fine on a per target basis. There's just not going to be enough pass attempts because of how Justin Fields plays quarterback. And then I'm looking at, okay, he turns 25 in July. He wallows through this, you know, mid offense again, has a pretty unimpactful season. He turns 26 next year, and the Jets are either running it back with Justin Fields again, or they have a rookie quarterback, and they're not going to be probably picking high enough to get a great one. And even if they get a good one, it's still a rookie quarterback. So I'm like, when is Garrett Wilson ever going to play in like a high-flying, high-scoring offense? Because when you look at how CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson have ever put up those huge seasons, yeah, they're super talented. Their teams threw it 620 times, you know, to get there. I just don't know how it ever happens for Wilson. And so as much as I think his talent is high, I'm just not going to hold on to him hoping that he gets, you know, traded to, I don't know, the Rams in week 5 or whatever would have to happen for that, you know.
I was, as a Patriots fan, since I was in middle school, and after the Randy Moss trade, I've been chasing that high forever. Like maybe we trade for a good wide receiver.
Like if he went to the Patriots, I'd be so back in, like immediately back in. But I just, I struggle with it.
We're gonna be opposite sides of that one. That's a fun one. Fun fact, guys, another Garrett Wilson trade. We've got 2 more of these. They just been that interesting. We have CeeDee Lamb for DeVonta Smith and Garrett Wilson.
Same deal.
Would you same deal? Same thing.
Give me the best player. Give me the guy in Lamb that I think is, live to finish wide receiver 1 overall. Smith and Wilson, both talented wide receivers. They're just not in situations that I think are going to give them the opportunity to provide high-end production. DeVonta Smith is going to do what he always does. He's going to score 14.2 points per game. He's going to have a couple of those big weeks in there, and he's going to have a bunch of weeks where he goes 2 catches for 31 yards. And that's what he does. He's awesome. If AJ Brown got hurt tomorrow, then I guess maybe I'd feel a little differently. But I just really struggle with that whole tier of DeVonta, Zay Flowers, Jaylen Waddle before everybody decided that he sucked and didn't want to value him highly. All of these guys that are most likely going to score in that mid to low end wide receiver 2 range and are really being valued highly just because of they have a lot of years left. It's well, yeah, he's going to score 13 points per game, but what if I told you he was going to do that, for 5 straight years? I just don't care that much about those players personally, where I think I can go out in any given season and I can go find, a Jauan Jennings for a mid-second and get the exact same thing. I'd rather just do that every year rather than, pay up front for all of those years remaining, where then I don't even get baked in injury risk or, downside risk if they don't perform. So I'm never going to be too swayed off of a superstar player because I have to give up a DeVonta Smith type of guy.
Noted. I don't know. It's hard for you to make both those, but I lied, guys. The next trade isn't a Puka one. This is our last one, or it's not a Garrett Wilson trade. It's a Puka one. This is our last one. Puka Nacua for DK Metcalf. This is misleading. Yeah, it is, but it's DK Metcalf in a 107.
Okay.
I care so little about both of those assets in comparison to Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is my dynasty wide receiver 3 right now, or 4 or 5. It's 3. Yeah, it's when I say 3, I mean I think Puka Nacua is in the same realm as Malik Neighbors, BTJ, all them for me.
Oh,
it's just,
for sure.
It's not even close, man. I was so wrong to fade him for any reason whatsoever, and now he's just been my at all cost players. But one of my at all cost players, I've traded Jeanty to get Puka, and that's because I just needed a high end wide receiver. If I would do
that,
yeah, I'd rather have 2 low end wide receiver ones, low end wide receiver running back ones,
there you go,
or high end RB2s, and have Puka Nacua than not have Puka Nacua and have Ashton Jeanty. That's just how I build my lineups. Running back is so easy to figure out to me that I'd rather have Puka Nacua. I've been on this DK Metcalf tear, guys. Yeet him off your roster if Puka Nacua is even an option. You're trading DK Metcalf. I've seen Tet fall there. I've seen RG Harvey fall up there. Colston Loveland. You've got question marks.
Big time.
At least year 1 question marks at 107 for DK Metcalf and Puka. What do we else need to say, Paul?
I'll just shout out the Pure Potential channel real quick, because I did a sells video 2-3 days ago, and one of my guys was DK Metcalf as a big sell, because he just hasn't he had one good year in his second season. He scored 17 points per game, and every year since then he's finished between wide receiver 20 and wide receiver 30. It's just, he misses expectations every single year. He gets drafted in the 3rd round of redraft and just doesn't do anything. And now he's going to a team that was 29th in pass attempts last year and currently has Mason Rudolph at the top of the depth chart. And best case scenario is Aaron Rodgers, who we just talked about, had the most empty top 5 pass attempts type of season you could ever have. That's what we're hoping for DK Metcalf. He's not a high target consolidation guy. He's not in a good offensive environment that's going to score a lot of points or throw a lot of passes. He's not that young anymore. He's not a guy you're still hoping is ascending or is going to gain value in Dynasty. He's going to be 28 in December. I have very little interest in rostering him. I mean, no interest at his cost, but just very little interest in general in acquiring him. I'm not giving up a guy that I have, Puka, I have my 10th overall asset in Dynasty, wide receiver 4. that's not the package I'm looking for in return. If I'm trading away a player of that caliber, is DK Metcalf and Quinshawn Judkins or whatever. Like, I just, no, thank you.
And to be fair, I know I've talked about splitting assets. It's like Kenneth Murray, homeboy, who hosts the FF Unlimited podcast. You know, he was trying to trade Lad McConkey. Typically, once we get into a wide receiver one, like top 10 territory, I'm not trading down or tearing down unless it's like worst case scenario. But I've also value Garrett Wilson highly. So that's why I would do this.
Right.
But like, I'm not trading Puka, guys. Like, it would take so much for me to trade Puka. I know I had like a bad roster to like trade Jamar Chase. I'm like, I'd rather die, buddy. Like, I'll trade Ashton Jeanty because of running back shelf lives and they're less in control of their environment. Like it's easier for a wide receiver, even in a bad environment, to earn targets, i.e., like Garrett Wilson, than it is for a good running back to do anything in a bad offense. Let's say Josh Jacobs for years on the Raiders. You know, that's just like that's just where we're at there. It's insane to me. And then to put on your DK, I guess pile on more on DK, to scroll down on my episode that I haven't dropped yet at the time of this recording, but redraft on Sleeper, DK Metcalf's ADP right now is 503. In the 5th round, like, that's what I'm thinking about. If I didn't get a tight end, I may be getting like, that's like Sam LaPorta range, George Kittle range for tight end. If you want a high end quarterback, sometimes I can get Jaden Daniels there, maybe even another high end wide receiver 3 or 2. And you're going to spend it on DK Metcalf. I'm a zero RB guy. I'm trying. I'm a zero RB guy, or I prioritize quarterback or wide receiver heavier. I'm shopping for running backs at this range. You're telling me that I'm going to take DK Metcalf with that pick? No thanks.
Oh, thank you. And when it comes to guys like Puka, or you even go higher up the board, like Lamb or Hurts, Bowers, Jefferson, Chase, Lamar, like those guys they're your foundational assets. That they have a very long runway ahead of them. They're in that league winner conversation every single year. I have no incentive, no interest in trading those guys away unless my team is like 10th in value. Like I have, the 10th best team in a 12-team league, and I have no possible avenue to create a better roster for myself because I have too much value tied up in like one of these high-end players that can't gain value. Then I can understand like, okay, I need to break this guy down into as many, first round picks as possible or high upside rookies as possible and try to regain that value. I'm not going to be making the deal for Metcalf, first of all. And then the other thing is like, this isn't anywhere close to where Puka would even be valued on like a trade calculator. Like there's no world where this type of deal makes sense. For the person trading Puka. It makes a ton of sense for the guy getting him. I mean, great work. But
and I want to say the person who posted this one, and like normally to me and like to guys like me and Paul, this is a ooh baby, what is you doing trade. But like especially now, and I'm not trying to talk small to anyone here, but like for the average new Bestball, or excuse me, new Dynasty person, this trade could make sense to someone. We're like, DK Metcalf, wide receiver 1 for the Steelers, blah, blah, blah. Right. 107, I want to get blah, blah, blah. It's just that's how you lose leagues, guys. But that will do it for the trade show. Thank you, Paul, for coming on here again. You could see him over the Pure Potential channel. If you're a Dynasty bro, I highly recommend you go over there and see Paul and all the work he's doing over there. One of the smartest, brightest Dynasty people that I know. If you just want to see me and my shenanigans, hit the like and subscribe button. And again, it's Bestball season. If you want to get on Fast Draft, you want a $50 deposit match, use my code JAG. As always, I love you. See you on the next one.
So I thought I needed.